Ableism. What is it and how is it relevant to college students today? I'm Alexis Nelson, and later in the presentation, you will meet my group members, Mandy Chow and Abby Olson. So first, we want to start off with what is the issue and how can we best understand it? Individuals with disabilities are perceived as less than their non-disabled counterparts. College students with physical, mental, and learning disabilities have to adapt to online learning in the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, adapting to online learning during this pandemic has not been easy for anyone, but for individuals with disabilities, this task can be made a lot harder. And so to start, before we examine how exactly ableism affects college students and provide some solutions, we wanted to provide you with definitions first. So ableism is discrimination in favor of able-bodied people, the main topic of our presentation today. Being abled is defined as having a full range of physical or mental abilities. Self-identification is the attribution of certain characteristics or qualities to oneself. In relation to ableism, self-identification has to do with an individual self-identifying with the fact that they have a disability, whether it be physical, mental, or learning. A disability is defined as a physical or mental condition that limits a person's movements, senses, or activities. And to have dual disability means the consequences of it, the internalization of ableism by the disabled and non-disabled alike, essentially providing the individual with more stress and more hurt from their disability than they should be experiencing. So I'm sure that was probably pretty confusing for some of you guys. But what I just signed is actually the quote that is present on the right-hand side of the screen that says, when we start to look at examples of ableism, we can see what a huge negative impact it has on disabled people's lives. So many of our daily struggles are magnified by ableism, and our perceptions of self-worth are often influenced by it too. I wanted to use my skill in sign language to be able to show that it can kind of make you feel confused or frustrated when you don't understand what someone's saying. And for some students in college right now, they may be experiencing those things, but they have taken on a dual disability and they have internalized. And that's why we wanted to provide captions on our presentation, because we believe that all students should have access to equal education, even in the times of COVID where it makes it a lot more difficult.
Hi, my name is Abigail Olson, and I'm going to be speaking on past and present ableism. In the past, ableism has been used to justify present and historic inequalities in its rejection of different or preferable ways of being and existing. On this slide, we are going to be talking about 3 disabilities that fall into present ableism, and those include learning disabilities, mental disabilities, and physical disabilities. Physical disability is a physical condition that affects a person's mobility, physical capacity, stamina, or dexterity. Nearly 1 in 5 people in the United States are living with some sort of disability. Individuals with physical disabilities often have pre-existing health conditions, and they may be more susceptible to illnesses. Moving on to mental disabilities, people with mental health problems say that the social stigma attached to mental illness and the discrimination they experience can make their difficulties worse and make it harder to recover. 1 in 6 people have experienced a mental health issue in the last week alone. Um, the transition to online school and online school itself is extremely stressful. And since the start of the COVID-19 pandemic, college students are becoming more isolated. I can speak from personal experience that online school is extremely stressful. And during my senior year of high school is when the COVID-19 pandemic actually hit. And so we made that transition to online school. And with that, I lost a lot of motivation, and it was more about meeting deadlines than the actual learning itself. Moving on to a learning disability, some forms of assessments like timed essays or exams may put students with dyslexia or ADHD at a disadvantage. Dyslexia and ADHD are both examples of a learning disability. Things that can harm or hurt a student with a disability is lack of proper training for staff and faculty, lack of resources and accommodations. And then the last one that we came up that we decided to share is the barrier that is the one size fits all approach. And so to explain that is I have seen this image going around on social media for the longest time, and it is where a group of various animals sit in front of a desk with a teacher, and the teacher states, okay, today's assignment is how well you can climb that tree. And in the group of animals is a goldfish, a giraffe, a frog, a monkey, an elephant, all kinds of animals. And based on their looks and how well they can climb a tree, I can tell you some will get Fs and some will get As. The one size fits all approach does not work. Moving on to ableism in higher education and post-secondary institutions, the medical model of disability assumes that people with disabilities struggle to fit into society because of their disability. People with disabilities are more at risk of poor academic performance than their non-disabled peers. This is not due to lack of ability, but rather the disabling social, environmental, and attitudinal barriers, or the social model of disability. A lot of post-secondary institutions commonly require evidence of a disability prior to providing accommodations to disabled students. Again, I can vouch for that. Iowa State University, I had to go through multiple forms and like phone calls in order to get placed in the dorm that I am today. And so it was a little lengthy, but it was worth it, and it wasn't difficult at all. The last thing that I wanted to talk about is the image that I chose to display on my slide. It is a star, and next to it is a box with shaped cut holes in it. And the box has a triangle, a square, and a circle. And as you can see, the star would not fit into a triangle, square, or circle. And on the box, it says, "Welcome to Shapetown. All shapes are welcome." But in fact, that shape is not able to go through the said holes. This is just an example of ableism and how it can be seen in our society. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Mandy Chow, and I'll be discussing ways to raise awareness of ableism as well as other solutions that we have proposed for this problem. The first is to fight stereotypes, prejudice, and discrimination. We recommend this both on a personal level and on a wider level, such as in school or the community, or even on a global scale. This can start as simply as being more careful with how you speak and using more inclusive language and ideologies in your day-to-day life. Another is to promote diversity and inclusivity in course material. We as a group believe that it is our responsibility, as well as instructors and administration and people in higher positions, to emphasize the importance of diversity in course design and material. And we have the responsibility to make sure that everybody's point of view is considered in our disciplines, such as policy or social work or architecture. The list goes on and on. It is just important to make sure that everybody is included, no matter their abilities or specific struggles and obstacles. Another is to encourage and ease the process of requesting accommodations. This includes normalizing accommodations as well as breaking public and self-stigma. We believe that nobody should be ashamed or belittled for needing an accommodation, such as notes prior to lecture or closed captioning or extended assessment times. And with this is we also need to implement and establish the provision of adequate accommodations. So as I said, some students may need alternative assessment options or longer assessment times. And providing course and program materials, program modifications is necessary for a lot of students and people in general to achieve what they want to achieve. And we also need to acknowledge different ways of learning, such as Braille or ASL, like Alexis showed earlier. And just there are multiple ways to raise awareness that maybe you may not be aware of, but it is important that we become more considerate of others and we start to implement these solutions and improve accessibility to everybody. So we have specific resources that are specific to Iowa State University, such as the Student Accessibility Services, as well as the Office of Equal Opportunity, and we have their emails linked if anybody needs to contact them for any reason. We also have two things that we would like to see established, especially now that we are making the transition to online learning in the COVID-19 pandemic. One, this is to provide closed captioning and or transcripts for online lectures and podcasts. Even I personally have seen and I've noticed that many of my lectures, they don't have closed captioning, and I personally don't need those, but there are many, many students who do. And it's critical to their learning and to their success that these things are established. Another thing is to make accessibility and equity the standard for academic institutions. This is not just specific to Iowa State University. However, we did suggest this for our case specifically, but we believe that accommodations should be institutionalized. So this is not just on an individual level, but it should be built in the foundation of education. So this means that we don't want just students to have to go actively search and advocate for themselves, but just to have these things available to them at all times would be a lot more helpful as well as inclusive. So it doesn't feel like we are singling them out for needing accommodations or an alternative for the coursework. And we challenge each and every one of you to reflect on the privilege that you have, because there are others, or there are people out there with disabilities who they may not achieve what you do as easily. They definitely can, however, they may need certain accommodations to help them do so. And we would just like for you all to notice and to be more considerate in how you treat certain situations and to be more aware of your surroundings. Thank you.